Good morning, everybody. We'll wait a few minutes here and let everybody get in to the meeting, and then we'll get started. A lot of folks today. It's awesome. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started here. Um, we have some guests here today to speak about some new technology type stuff that we think might be of interest to you folks. But as always, I'm going to start with some reminders and announcements here this morning. First off, we I know in the first year of the program we had to have, when everybody was signing up initially, getting their enrollments done, we had to get their FSA paperwork filled out, which I know for a lot of you was a sort of challenging process, but we did manage to get it done for 200 and I don't know, 60 or 70 people now. So unfortunately, we have to refresh that paperwork once a year, which I know might sound very challenging, but we have been working with the FSA to make this a much easier process. So now what we can do, we have a like very short release form. It's one paragraph that allows us to pull the subsidiary print for your producers directly from the state FSA. So your producers don't even have to go to the FSA office. So this document will be coming around. It just says CDA can pull my information directly from FSA. And of course, it also has privacy policy information stating that we will, not, that we will keep their information private, just like we do with all the other information they've provided us so far, and in accordance with all applicable state laws. So we'll be getting those out to you and trying to get those signed by as many individuals as we can. So before a producer can be paid here for their 2025 activities, we have to have that signed piece of paper or a subsidiary print that is from fiscal year 25. So please keep that in mind. Sorry for the inconvenience. It was a addition to the grant that I was not expecting. But I think we can make it much easier on everybody this time and for future years as well. So that document says that we can pull that as subsidiary print for each year that they participate in the program. So like for the folks who participated in 2024, and we can now pull it for 2025 directly from the state office and also for 2026. So we can just prevent them from having to go in and do anything really. So please keep that in mind. It's coming out. We're going to be trying to get it signed by as many people as we can, as fast as we can, so that it doesn't hold up any payments. On to STAR. So the STAR field evaluations are open, and we're asking you to go in there and assist your producers in getting into that app and filling out their field evaluations. We have about 80 so far that have been filled out, and that's really exciting to see. We're trying to get all of the initial 250-ish people from last spring that enrolled to do this as fast as we can, because we're still trying to capture their data before they started their new practice. So I know this is inconvenient. We were late in getting the STAR app up and running. It just was a very long process, and it set us all back here, but we're back on track. We need to just get our producers in there. So please, if you haven't sent that out to your producers, or even if you have, please check with them and make sure that things are going, that they're in there trying their best. And if they haven't, please give them a nudge so we can get that done as soon as possible, because we are going to be releasing that field evaluation process to all producers in the state. And those producers will be evaluating their crop year 2024. whereas your producers will be evaluating crop year 2023. So we're trying to get all of our enrolled producers completed and through the process so we can roll this out to the general public. Which brings me to our CSCB coffee hour. I know many of you go to the coffee hours for the Colorado State Conservation Board, where where they present information to all the different state conservation districts. I will be presenting on February 12th and going through the STAR app to all the other conservation districts that are not participating in our soil health program. I'll be showing them how to access the STAR app and how to present it out to their producers, just again in the general public, not people that are enrolled in our program. So that'll be exciting. We hope to have more people come in and use that app. We hope that it takes off and gets used widely. Producers that are not enrolled in the soil health program, if they go into the app on their own, they can get a free soil health analysis. So that's something to think about. For the first 100 people, I believe, that go through the app, they get a free soil health analysis. Oh, and then also worth noting, we have a few producers last week that pulled a 5-star rating. I think we have 3 producers now. So that's very exciting. And congratulations to those producers. We're going to probably do a write-up on their operations and how they got to those 5 stars, but I will wait until they give us permission before I shout out their names. And finally, our next scheduled info session will be rescheduled from the 17th to the 24th. And it will be a nutrient management info session with N-Soil and AEA. And that we're moving it from the 17th to the 24th due to President's Day. So please be aware there will be another webinar with guest presenters on the 24th. There will not be a meeting on the 17th, which is President's Day. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Sarah Hinckley from Barn Owl, and she's going to give us a presentation here. And go ahead and take it away, Sarah.
Hey, everybody. Thanks, John. Great to be here. Are you seeing the screen okay?
Yes.
Thumbs up. Thanks. Okay, so some of you might know us. We got started originally in 2017 as Barn Owl Drone Services. In those very early years, we were flying drones over our local farm fields to identify areas of concern in irrigation, insects, pressure, yield counts, and other things. And our farmers, they said the information's great, but we don't have any support to go and solve the problems. And so since 2017, we've really tried to hone in on that as the main issue, in that farmers need field support to create sustainable systems and solutions that drive farmer health and soil health. And so for us as a company, we start with that farmer health, which we truly believe will positively impact soil health. But yeah, today we go by Barn Owl Precision Ag, BOPA for short, and we are here to talk about the autonomous nano tractor. And so this is our solution to that request for field support. Basically, our earliest farmers, David Harold, Eric and Chuck Hannigan, the Hiracatas down south, have really, and all of the extension offices, Mike Bartolo and all these guys have really honed in on giving us the advice to create a solution in an autonomous tractor that we think farmers can really utilize to create positive soil health driven actions. Our biggest challenge that we're solving today is precision weeding in between the plants, but we built this system initially as an entire way to drive soil health benefits. And then again, our farmers just said we need labor. So let's figure out the labor problem first, and then we can continue to talk about how we drive soil health. And so that's where we're at today. Over the last 7 years, we've been working with farmers, never in the most perfect way, but always learning from what we did last year and making improvements. And so this year we have a bigger and an improved version. It has a 2,000-pound payload capacity. It can do in a single 30-inch row in precision weeding 4 acres per day, but we also have a boom that we can pop out to give us an additional 3 rows. It can tow, as far as liquid capacity, 40 gallons on top of itself, and then it can tow as far as a payload behind it, probably close to 2,000 pounds as well. We decided to go very small so that farmers, mostly could utilize multiple tractors at one time, but the soil compaction benefits that we've seen over the last few years have just been great. We can go under sprinklers, and so we can operate in somewhat, wet, moist conditions that tractors might not be able to. But then the result of the tractors being in the farm is not very intrusive. There are videos here in the PDF, and I think that you guys all got access to these, but if you need more videos and want to see it further in action, we'll be deploying 30 of these throughout the state this year. And so the way that it works is farmers can either call us and get a service for the precision weeding or other inputs. So in the San Luis Valley, we're working with Jeff from GeoVisual here on a project to help farmers with potato virus Y, but what that also looks like is planting trap crops to try to attract aphids and maybe even encourage other soil health practices. So there's a number of different tasks that the robot can do. It can do planting, weeding, spraying, and the spraying aspect is a precision spray. So our concept is that cut and spray for our weeding method. Let's see if we can pull it up. So this is the Ant Flex, and this one does have a fully adjustable wheelbase that goes all the way from 30 to, well, actually 14 to 44-inch wheelbase. And so that was, mostly to allow farmers to create different crop plans and then use the tractor to manage it. And then at the very end of this, we'll see our precision weeding tool, but this is the 2025 version that will be in the field. And if you know a farmer, the way it works, they can use our services for $55 to $75 per acre per visit, or a farmer could buy the tractor and run it for many, many other tasks. And so we have a group of larger growers with Western Sugar, Farmer Bean, in this Northeast Colorado area that are going to be buying a few of these tractors and trying to convert many of their conventional feed acres over to no inputs, and then using this to plant different varieties of those same milo, beets, beans, corn rotation to really drive that soil health, but also just remove that resistant pigweed. In the San Luis Valley, I mentioned our potato virus Y. And then in our vegetables, we're working on this precision weeding tool, which is no-till, reduced-till, cut and spray. So we can go very deep into the soil, or we can keep this tool right above and then hopefully input something that would prevent that from tillering out further. And then, so as I mentioned, we got started originally doing the drone service aspects. So we stop at this field-based application. And the reason for that is because it's way too big for us to do alone. And so we do not do analytics. You can use our dashboard and you can see what the robots are doing, where they're doing it, what percentage of acres have been worked, and a number of other things, but you cannot look at plant health or plant counts or do other things. And so that's why we like to partner with people like Jeff from GeoVisual Analytics to create that second layer of action. And then I think before I kick it off to Jeff, are we doing questions now or later? Maybe.
That's totally up to you. I mean, does anybody have questions right off the bat for Sarah?
I have a couple other things too we can go over. So I think the only other thing to really highlight here is that we get into the field, we get all of this really beautiful data, and what that kind of looks like is we start by having that drone map so that we can communicate and coordinate. So anytime there's a robot in the field, the operator, and it's usually an owl, a barn owl employee, they go out and fly an RTK correct drone map so that everybody knows exactly where everything is at all times, but that's only for communication between the farmer and the robot, their agronomists, their support partners, whoever else. The robot itself navigates on computer vision following in the row, and so it's able to navigate within our tractor errors, and then the action it's created is also running on computer vision only. And so this map is ideal for us, the farmer, to be able to say, this plot needs to be weeded, but at the same time, they can go fix their irrigation leaks before it really gets out of control. And so similar aspect here, we can use this map to identify, areas of growth variability or potential sprinkler issues, all while the robots potentially could go in and replant those small sections to avoid any negative soil health aspects. And so
Very
then
cool.
when we look at this, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I think Cindy had her hand up. Did you have a question for Sarah? I don't think your audio is coming through, Cindy.
All right, is that better?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Sorry. Too many different virtual meeting pathways. And so anyway, thank you, Sarah, for your presentation. I really appreciate this technology. I think it's really very forward thinking. A question that comes to mind is you're referencing cut and spray and just wondering if you're really doing it simultaneously like that, cutting and then spraying, because I'm thinking how if you're controlling weeds, you're actually not going to have the efficacy of the chemical because you've severed that plant. And could you describe that a little more? And maybe I'm just misunderstanding.
No, you're not misunderstanding. That is exactly it. And we are studying it with CSU this season to actually figure out the impact of the specific input. But what CSU is thinking is that if we do cut this weed first and then figure out a different input, maybe not Roundup, maybe not something else, but something that's maybe just to avoid that plant from tillering out. And so that's only late season, right? We don't want to be there late season, but our tool works late season should we get there. So the other concept is cut and steam. So any input to reduce that regrowth rate. And so we do have a steam head as well. That's more of an organic application. So haven't proven that cut and spray method out yet.
So it'd need to be a residual chemical and not a contact type chemical that would need that uptake from the leaf. So yeah, okay. Thank you for describing that.
Yeah, and then the other flip side is that we could pull the cutter if we just wanted to have that precision spray action, because the actuation and the computer vision works on either option. So it really is the farmer and their team and us work together to figure out what works best for their specific use case. And then, yeah, so the farmers can control the robots with the interface and the tablet. That is very much for only getting into the field and setting the missions and then determining the task and then setting it to go. As far as the analytics beyond that, BOPA does not do that and does not have any plans in the future to do that, because we want to really stay focused on getting this physical automation system to be exactly the best thing that it can be for farmers. But what this system does for us is it allows us to create really beautiful RTK corrected maps that we can then create an API into GeoVisual Analytics, and they could become another support partner to help us figure out what we could use to solve our patches like this. Or maybe, other planting methods. But we are working with GVA on a project in the San Luis Valley. And if there's any other robot-based questions about soil health, the actual task, the capacity, kind of what we've done and what we've proven so far, happy to answer any more questions on that.
I have a quick question. How scalable is this right now? How close are you getting to where you can offer this to producers that would be interested?
Yeah, so this is the first year that I would say I'm very, very comfortable leaving robots fully on farm, to be very honest with you guys. We ran last year as a service based. We had a lot of failures in trying to coordinate planning with farmers. And so we would show up to a field and there would be, water because I didn't have that irrigation scheduled, or there would be labor because I didn't have the labor scheduled. And so that's where Jeff also comes in because he helps do that. And so working with them, we've been able to figure out some sort of communication and integration system. But because each of those is still complicated, our farmers have also just asked us to sell them to them and let them control the logistics of them. And so the software, the computer vision, the tool, we're all feeling very good about. And then that 2025 version has all of the upgraded harmonic drives, linear actuators. So we finally just put that quality into the hardware without farmers having to pay the extra cost for it. And so we're feeling pretty good this year.
Great, thank you. And Regan, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, can the robot spread soil amendments?
Yes, it can. We will never recommend, prescribe anything. So as long as you can tell it, then we can figure out the best plan. The interface is similar to a DJI drone, spray drone application where you can program the rates and the inputs. We do not have everything set in there, but it's getting closer.
I just want to jump in, maybe as a transition, but I don't want to rush Sarah. But I think we're working on a variable rate fertilizer application where very much like, any kind of a soil amendment, the idea being that, if you can give us a prescription across a field and then have it, in our case, we've got a mechanism that goes behind a standard tractor and a 3-point hitch that we're working with, but it could certainly be applied to Sarah's robots as well. So that's a really interesting use case I hadn't really thought about before.
And yes, just unless there are any other questions, feel free to jump in here on the analytics, unless Liza has anything else or.
No, if there are no other questions for Sarah, please take it away, Jeff.
Okay, assuming you guys can see the slides okay. So thanks you all for having me. This is really, really fun because as Sarah talked about, we're starting to collaborate, and I think both our companies are at a place now where we can start executing on some things in the field, as Sarah described with her robots. And then from our side, I was going to give you a little bit of background. So GeoVisual, we've been around since about 2015. We got started going through the Thrive AgTech Accelerator out in California. I founded GeoVisual. I'm in Colorado. So we're Colorado based, but because the Thrive Accelerator was really focused on the Salinas Valley and the leafy green world out there and the berry world, that's really how we got started and where we've been focused since about 2015. We really got going, with customers out there in about 2017. So our principal crops have been leafy green crops and berries, just strawberries. And so our geographic focus has been in the Salinas Valley, from where a lot of the principal growing or producer operations that are based there then draw upon the Yuma, Arizona area in southern Arizona for their winter production. But again, I'm based in Colorado, and we've been interested now and are at a place where we're wanting to branch out further outside of California and Arizona. We've been involved with the Colorado fruit and vegetable growers for several years, and I think it was through them we kind of got to know Sarah and Barnow, and then also got involved with a Colorado specialty crop block grant in the San Luis Valley for the potato industry. And then we brought Sarah and her team in to fly drone imagery that we brought into our platform. And I'll show you some examples of how that works in a moment. And then Sarah mentioned the Potato Virus Y project, which we've submitted a proposal to the Western SARE program, USDA program. So we're really hoping that we'll hear news this quarter on that one, and then we can continue to work with the potato industry in the San Luis Valley. But really what I guess I wanted to talk about, I jotted down a few notes I was going to check here, but where I think it ties into what you guys are doing, we're also involved with the Climate Smart Commodities Project with the International Fresh Produce Association as one of their data service providers, as they call it, basically to help them to support the data that they're collecting for each one of their, pilot project growers, much like presumably you guys are doing under the STAR program, and help, manage and distribute that data to all the partners on the project. But we as a commercial company, our focus, and we really learned this in California, is to incentivize beyond these pilot programs where there's maybe an incentive payment to get growers to adopt these practices by really helping them understand that there is commercial value in so doing. And obviously, a lot of these practices take a long time to prove out. Our philosophy really, or a mission, is to try to help shorten those trial times and make more of a production operation, a trial. So our little tagline is, if we can make every production field a trial, that would be cool. So, in theory, every grower is collecting data on their practices, and they're able to track their own practices from field to field and from year to year and see, quantitatively what works, what makes more sense in terms of developing better soil to get better yields and to basically reduce their costs so they can increase their profit margin. And so, since we're commercial, that's what we're really trying to drive with growers. But, we're working so closely with the more science and tech side, with a lot of universities and like through the block grant program. I think it's really interesting to see, learn what we can do with trials on a research farm and then take those into production. So that's kind of where we're going. I want to show you just some examples to make it a little more concrete. So basically, as Sarah queued up, we're a data analytics company, GeoVisual Analytics, or GVA as they call us typically. And so we've developed over the course of several years now a web and mobile application. So, loosely the concept is like the web is used in office and the mobile app in the field. More and more, we're realizing that particularly younger farmers or sons and daughters of farmers and grandsons and granddaughters, are so accustomed to using mobile tools, using their phone. Everybody uses their phone for a lot of stuff already, but make it so that they can use it in the field in an effective way that's not more of a burden or one more thing they have to do, but really to try to reduce the time that it takes for them to do the things they're already doing. So I'll talk about a couple of particular applications, but here's just a couple examples where what we've done here is we've taken some real field data, but we've changed the names to protect the innocent. We've moved them into, in this case, Texas. We just because we deal with a map, we translated everything over into Texas because a lot of our growers, if they can see on a map who's got, what our fields are, they know, oh, that's my neighbor's field or what have you. And just we're very conscious of data confidentiality and privacy rights, which of course in the Climate Smart program is an issue. And we're trying to help with that as well in terms of data sovereignty. But the idea here is, so we ingest growers' planting data, as we call it, so their ranch maps, their lot information, what's planted where and when, what variety, et cetera, and then help them manage daily tasks. So here you see kind of the web and mobile version of sort of the same thing. You see for different weeks, you see the lots, the name. In this case, on the web, you see like a block number, because if you have a little bit larger operation, you have a lot of smaller fields in a block that could be used for irrigation or what have you. It's all on the same well, for example. And in the mobile app, you see kind of individual tasks. And we'll talk a little more about that. So one of the first things we've done is realized, we can just, by ingesting all that information of a grower and their operations, then, basically kind of what we call a digital ranch book allows them to be able to just track where things are if they have a larger operation. When you have a lot of people going out to fields, as is the case in the veg world, you basically, as you're going out there, it's sort of like you usually can find where your fields are. So we call this digital ranch book. You can kind of check which plantings are active, which ones may have alerts associated with them. Where you see an exclamation point, there's something that somebody needs to take a look at. And then that's the idea of you can then use those to track observations that you collect in the field, any notes, any alerts that are kind of on a lot by lot basis. And the other piece of this is once you have all that planting data, a lot of the veg growers, they have literally would historically have a planting ticket, a piece of paper that they would pass from one operation segment to another. So you've got everything planted, and then you got to start thinking about herbicides or pesticides or fertilizer. Typically, on the herbicide or pesticide side, I think that's where you have to pass a planting ticket to a pest control advisor or what have you. So now we're really able to digitize that, and so they have a record. They can use that record for any regulatory reporting, as well as just coordinating amongst the team. I'm going to go through several things here, and we can come back to any specific questions, but I don't want to go too long. I'm just talking at you with getting some feedback. So obviously, with a lot of people out in the field, you've got your phone, trying to make it fairly easy that if you're out in the field, you can see something that, Sarah's robots haven't picked up, but you've got your phone, you've got a camera, you can type in some notes. So we make it a little easier where we've got some kind of pre-configured observations, like you see issues related to weeds, that then maybe we could create that prescription map for Sarah to go out and do a weeding, disease, kind of the standard things you might see in the field. You can actually create a note that's geolocated using the geolocation service of your phone. So it's not going to be RTK precise like Sarah's robot, but at least just to start. And then, with Sarah flying imagery, then that's going to get you closer to pinpointing where things are. So we're working to make kind of all these sort of data inputs more precise, but also just easier for a grower to use. And then, of course, you can take a note, take a photo from your phone that's also tagged to that note. So that's kind of the idea there. And then all of this can feed into tasks and task requests. So maybe I see something in the field when I'm out there. It's like, there's weeds in this zone. So, the folks are going to have to get out and weed it or apply some kind of input. And so then you can schedule tasks. Those could either be requested from the field, or they could be kind of management could be able to say, okay, well, here's a schedule, and I'll show you in a kind of a calendar view where you have different tasks that you can schedule. And as Sarah pointed out, this is what we're really interested in implementing, where, if she's historically gone out with the robot to do something, but finds out that because schedules have to change, they often do, more often than not, and not everybody finds out, particularly if, you're not part of the core production team. So then to be able to let everybody know, basically by default, because everybody's kind of tied into this schedule, and everybody knows if things get moved around on the schedule. And again, I'll show you kind of the calendar view of that in a moment. I won't say too much about this, but a component of this is you can also schedule harvest, but you can make your estimated harvest projections. We've done some work to actually quantify that with analytics, with drone imagery and weather data. But the idea is that the harvest managers and their teams have really good knowledge already about what they think the harvest is going to be till the weather changes, of course, and that messes everything up. But the whole idea here then is that you can update that quickly and respond to changes as they go throughout the growing season. This slide just points out that we definitely have internationalization in here. So for the workers in the field, if English isn't their first language, then we can make it easy for them to use as well. Let's see, I want to jump ahead really more to the, this is now kind of focused on the web view versus just a mobile view. I mentioned this digital ranch book, so you can see it and you can manage things. If you're in the office and you're looking at a broader view of all your fields, you can export data. Usually that is done from the web app. So this could be for regulatory reporting, or this could just be to pass stuff off to your customers or your shippers, or just to be able to do analysis on your own kind of operations performance there. I'm going to skip over harvest logistics. That's going to dive in a little more into the weeds on that. No pun intended. I did mention the flight analytics, and this is something we were doing with the specialty crop block grant. Sarah's collecting imagery, and then you can just look at the imagery and you can actually kind of draw a polygon if you see issues in the field. Here you can see in the upper display just our web interface where you can see the drone imagery overlaid, and this is where everything is geocoded with RTK accuracy across the field. And then you can do analytics, and in the lower screenshot there you see some work we did with some USDA funding to actually based on what we can see in the drone imagery of leafy greens field and the tracking weather. We've got a model, a growth model built in, and we can see based on when that imagery was collected fairly early in the growth cycle, we're actually able to project what the estimated head size of, in this case, iceberg lettuce would be at the harvest date. So you can adjust the harvest date, you can see kind of where the sweet spot is in there, and you can see that bell-shaped curve of the projected head sizes. Maybe if you have the luxury of maybe waiting a little longer, you can wait till that bell curve moves over into the green region there on head size, where you want slightly larger sized heads to fit into your 24 carton boxes, as an example. But really the more important thing that I want to talk about in terms of perhaps this meeting and working with Sarah is this idea of task scheduling. So here you kind of see the harvest, production calendar with different types of events on there. And so you can manage your tasks. Back to that example Sarah gave her, she'll show up and find out that, oh, they're irrigating today. Well, the idea is to be able to avoid that, but then also optimize within your operation. If you're a grower and you've got lots of fields and lots of teams of people out there, where you can make your whole operation more efficient by everybody knowing what's happening. And then particularly when a change happens, it gets updated on the calendar. And so before Sarah goes out to run her robots in somebody's field, she can check the calendar and make sure that they haven't inadvertently scheduled an irrigation event or a thinning event or something in that field. And our whole idea with these larger operations where they've got lots of fields and they're trying to control their supply to match the demand of their customers is that we can ultimately improve your crop turns per acre, effective crop turns, because you're basically tightening up your schedule. So you don't have as much downtime, you just don't have as much waste across the system. And ultimately that's going to improve your bottom line as a grower. Last slide is just lots of things. Once you have your data in a system, then the idea is you can do analysis on it. There's lots of ways you can visualize it. So we'll tie into these kind of data analytics platforms through an API, depending on what growers want. Larger growers may want to see over lots of different fields, but on a more field by field basis, the idea is that when you're doing research, if you're working with extension, collecting data on soil practices or what have you, at least the data is in the system and it only has to be entered in one place, tied into different sensors like data feeds from Sarah's robots or from other soil moisture sensors, for example. And then the data is there and we can then push that data out to whoever needs it, if it's a university partner in a climate smart program, etc. So I'm going to leave it at that and maybe turn it over to anybody who's got questions for both us, Sarah and myself.
Great, thank you, Jeff. Does anybody have any questions for either Jeff or Sarah? So I was wondering, you guys touched on different crops. Are there any crops that you guys don't work on? It can be any crop at all for both the robotic weeder and also for the software.
I'll just say, since I was just talking, like I mentioned, we're mostly focused on leafy greens and berries, but there's no technical reason we're limited. We don't have a lot of experience in orchard crops, for example, or vineyards, but we're interested in expanding those. It's really finding the use cases, and you can see our user interface is pretty designed for the kinds of tasks that the leafy green world principally focuses on. And so there's nothing that prevents us from, modifying that. Again, we're really focused on making it user friendly to the whole, production operation. But the work that we're already doing with Sarah down in the San Luis Valley on potatoes is a way for us to expand. And we are very interested in getting into other subsectors of the industry, of the specialty crop industry. We could do broadacre crops as well, but kind of our niche has become the specialty crop world. So that's probably where we're going to lean.
And then for me, yes, our computer vision is limited to the crops that we already have prepped. And so we are looking at, 5 to 10 for us that we have some historical data and experience on. For the robot navigation, however, that's not really limited. That's, taking that navigation and then making sure that we can get in and out. And then even once we get into a row, we can navigate without a really specific computer vision model. For 2025, edible dry beans, sugar beets, little bit of leafy greens, some lettuce, cabbage. I'm kind of afraid of onions and carrots. I'll just be honest, but we have other tools we can put behind the robot. So I did find like a $10,000 laser weeder. That's not my technology, but putting that behind the robot could potentially solve that onion carrot solution. Also, I think my barrel could work there. We just need that really strong base data to feed into the computer vision. So yeah, I mean, we have like 10 or 15 potatoes I mentioned. I didn't mention, but it's in there. So
You guys do a lot of grain crops. I'm imagining like for corn, like after a certain stage, like it's too tall for you to run your robot through, right?
correct. Yeah. So that's really why we want to try to get there early season. So corn is the exception. We have 24-inch base clearance. You can also today add another 6 inches on top of that. So about 30 inches height and then that adjustable wheelbase. So late stage corn cannot be there. But if we need to put any, soil health driven inputs on corn late season, we do have that spray drone application to supplement. So we are licensed, FAA certified, all that kind of stuff. We go through our all of our regulatory process. We just don't. That's not an effective tool compared to the robot. So
Great, thank you. Does anybody have any other questions for Sarah or Jeff?
Maybe I could throw one back at everybody and just see kind of where they see all these kinds of more precision technologies fitting in based on your guys' experience with the STAR program and growers, and just in the umbrella of soil health, kind of where you see these kinds of more technological solutions fitting in would be really helpful.
Well, I could see using the robot to spread soil amendments in delicate areas. So I'm working on a biochar project for some of our properties that currently have no grasses, just has a bunch of sagebrush. I wouldn't want to trample everything going in there with a tractor to spread a soil amendment, and doing it in small batches with the robot, I think could be pretty smart. Clearance might be a problem, but I see using these tools in delicate areas as really advantageous. Wetlands, things like that.
great. Let's talk.
Yeah, and I would kind of parrot that a little bit to say it, obviously the robot is a lot lighter device than a tractor. And one issue people have is compaction from just being on the field a lot. So I think that's a spot where it could be very helpful.
Especially early season when the ground is really damp. We had 58 degrees yesterday here, and I'm afraid to get into my fields now to feed because it's already leaving tracks because it's soft and gooey from the moisture. So again, if it could hold, 2,000 pounds, taking it out to the field to feed might be possible use as well.
And then that trailer has powered wheels as well, the same navigation and motor, so we can get extra and get it out in and out of a lot of places.
The cows might attack it though.
We can dress it up like a farmer or a rancher.
Or like another cow. So I did, I think that if folks are interested and, you end up getting this out on fields that are enrolled in our program, we can consider these things for reimbursable expenses. So I'd like to point that out for anybody listening that might think this would be helpful to one of their producers and is interested in giving it a try.
Thank you. Yeah, we're doing that on this Climate Smart project with the International Fresh Produce Association. So hopefully we can leverage some of that kind of feedback and expertise. So.
Definitely. All right. Any other questions or comments? Awesome. Well, thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Sarah. We really appreciate you guys coming and showing us these new technology leaps that are happening. This is pretty exciting stuff. And so I think it's going to be, I think this has only got nowhere to go but up. I think it's going to become way more common. So thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Yeah, thanks so much, guys. Look forward to trying to collaborate in the future.
Great.
All the best.
All right. We're going to go ahead and end the meeting. Have a good day, everybody.
Hey, John, I have a question for you about
you
the
go-
Star app.
Yeah, you bet, Regan.
So in the producers that are enrolling for 2024, they're going to enter that information for that year, but in the Star app, it says, you know, click here to enter your 2023 information. Is there going to be a button for 2024?
That's a great question. And yes, there is. So as of last week, they created a button so that the producer can choose either 23 or 24 when they go to start work on their field. I'm not certain that it's been pushed into the regular app yet, but it should happen any minute.
Cool. Thank you.
You bet. All right. Have a great week.